What's up, guys? Slammer4 here. I wanted to make a video talking about kind of my thoughts on an issue I think Littlewargame kind of has that I feel is hurting its I don't know, it's just the game. I think it's not as fun as it could be. And I'm sure other people have probably said this already, but whatever. I'm just gonna go for it anyway. Plus, I'm kind of stuck in a not so interesting game. It's a 1v1 with 2 AI computers, so it's gonna be pretty interesting versus some random guest. But anyway, what am I talking about? One of the reasons I haven't been playing a whole lot, part of the reason at least, the main reason I haven't been playing much or making videos lately is because I've been pretty busy with college stuff. And in fact, I just had my last final was today, so got that all out of the way. Pretty pumped about that. But yeah, one of the reasons I don't find Littlewargame that fun, at least sometimes I don't find it very fun, is you get these games that are just so long. They like literally can go for like an hour, and they just feel too long. You know, you're like, who wants to be playing an hour-long game? Sometimes that can be fun, you know, if you have an epic game. But more often than not, it's more about it's about who runs out of gold first. And that's the issue that I kind of want to talk about, is you get into these situations where neither side can really win the game. And the only way the game ends a lot of times is one player is slightly more cost efficient, and by the time the entire map runs out of gold, you know, like you've mined all the gold mines, then, you know, one player can win the game. And this is just really annoying gameplay, in my opinion at least. Like, it's not necessarily a huge problem to have like mined out games, and you know, you can always argue that that's like that always makes for interesting games. But I feel like that should be only once in a very long time, like one every maybe 50 games you get one of those, or one every 25 games or something like that. I feel like in Littlewargame it happens way too often, and it's just not fun. So like, an example of this is that game I have on my YouTube channel, versus AC. Basically went until the entire map is mined out, and that was like, I think 10 gold mines on that map or something. That's pretty much generally the 10 to 12 gold mines. I think it is pretty average, if I recall correctly, for a Littlewargame. So there's like 10, let's say there's 10 gold mines on that map, you know. Whoa, computer. Take it easy, bro. Take those catapults to the face. And that game versus AC is not the only example of this I've had. I was playing a mech versus mech game. Living up to my... Yes, of course, I always represent, guys. Unlike some people who just have random clan names for no reason. I have my clan name for a reason. OP Kata, best clan Littlewargame. You heard it here first. Anyway, as I was saying, what was I saying? I don't remember, guys. I've been mesmerized by the catapult drops. What? No! 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 Not GG! What are... Oh my gosh. Guys, there's no reason to GG just because a couple catapults are killing your computer AI's units. Oh well. Oh well. I guess I should be focusing on what I'm trying to say here anyway. What I'm trying to say here, and I'll try to make this quick, is on a map with like say 10 gold mines, you get all those gold mines mined out fairly quickly. And that's not I don't feel like that's necessarily the problem. Although part of the reason is I think some maps are too small. I was playing this catapult game on Oasis, one of the new ladder maps, newish ladder maps, I guess. And I think there's five gold mines for each player, or six. No, there's 6 gold mines for each player because there's a double gold. And we got into a situation where there's this gold mine in like the top right, which is on the high ground, and I had killed everything else except for this little base. Both of us were completely out of money, and we both had similar unit counts or something, so it was basically a complete stalemate. I don't think there's a way for it. I'm not sure if there's a way for my opponent to win. There was definitely not a way for me to win. And in fact, I did lose that game because I tried to like use dropship. And you know, maybe if I had better micro, I would have been able to like finagle something up. But like that was a 1-hour game. Ended up just being super aggravating game to play because RTS games should not necessarily be about, in my opinion, like who can be most cost efficient. So like once you run out of money, who has the most units? I feel like that's bad gameplay. And then like you get just these super annoying games where you're completely out of money. There's really no way you can win. And then like say if you have some towers, you can almost be getting a situation where you have legit stalemates. And like that's the worst. Which is what this game I played definitely had. Wow, by the way, congrats to the computer. I don't know if this is like the first time I've seen a computer AI actually take an expansion. Very impressive. Super impressive stuff here. So yeah, why is this though? Like, and that's not the only case. I've often had games where, like, if you get into the mid game, you only like win the game once your opponent runs out of gold. You know? So like, even if you have like a huge advantage, you can't like take advantage of that advantage. And this is especially the case, like, for example, if you're playing against someone who's equally skilled, or let's say even a little bit better than you. So, like, say you get a very solid early game advantage, then you can't win that game until, like, I was playing a couple games versus AC, I remember, where, like, I went for this, like, I had this game where I went for this 2 racks rush or something, and, like, I did huge damage, but, I wasn't able to end the game until a lot later, because it's just so hard to finish a game, and I feel like that's the root of the issue. It's very, very hard to finish a game in Littlewargame. It's very hard to, like, do a killing blow, you know? And the reason I feel, one of the reasons I feel this isn't something I don't know if I particularly like, is the extremely low maxed out supply cap. And the small size of your maxed out army. Because, like, if you have a maxed out army, let's say you got 30 workers, okay? Like, that's pretty standard, 30 workers. That only leaves you 70 supply for units. And I mean, you look at a catapult's a solid 4 supply. And then, so, and of course, let's say a dropship is 2 supply. Say you've got 4 dropship catapult combinations, okay? That's 40 supply right there. You're down to 30 supply left after that, okay? Maybe you take up that supply with a few more catapults, or a few more ballistae. Pretty soon, you're already maxed out, and you actually don't have that big of an army. Same with Rax units and Beast units, of course. Wolves obviously are super supply inefficient. You can't have that many wolves. Archers and stuff, you can have 5 archers for every 10 supply. And what this does, I feel, is and why I feel this is a problem, at least. Or not so much a problem, but something that maybe should be looked at. And obviously, any kind of design change, I'm not necessarily saying that there should be a design change, perhaps. I'm just kind of throwing this out there. But it's so hard to win in a game because if you're like in a maxed out situation with a ton of infrastructure, let's say you got like 6 or 7 racks, you know, you can spam units very quickly. In that situation, it's so hard to actually like finish off your opponent because let's say you have a big maxed out fight, you know, and as that fight's going on, you can just continue producing units. And because units are very cheap relative to their supply cost, it's very easy to just spam to replace your losses, and especially like defender's advantage, right? So in the time it takes your reinforcements to walk across the map, your opponent's reinforcements are just spawning right there, and I feel like it's kind of like a similar mechanic to like roaches in ZBZ in StarCraft 2. It's like the defender's advantage is such that, and the units build relatively quickly, and they're very relatively cheap, especially in a late game situation, right? So like, say you have a lot of money in the bank, you're maxed out, and upgrades are starting to become and of course this is another thing with like limited gold mines, right? You're you kind of have to start thinking about, you can't build that many more upgrades. Like, there's a limit to how many upgrades you can get because it becomes so prohibitively expensive, you know, that you basically if you get too many upgrades, like oftentimes I feel like if you get, like, you have maybe one more upgrade than your opponent, but if you're completely out of gold, that one more upgrade is completely useless, because like that huge cost of like what 700 gold you put into that extra upgrade, your opponent your opponent just did something silly and built a bunch of whatever. He built units, you know, instead of an upgrade, and he has way more units than you. And of course the exact decision like that is tricky to make. But I just feel like I'm just rambling here, guys. Let's play some Ballista Madness. The main point I was trying to make, what does this do? Like, the main point I was trying to make here. Whoa! Towers! The main point I'm trying to make here is, because units are so cheap relative to their supply cost, it's very hard to finish a game. Like, you can't win a game unless something dramatic happens. Like, you have to get a super huge... Whoa, we hit him, guys. Such Gosu. You have to get a super huge advantage to, take a game. Wow, that missed very badly. And as a result of that, games go on for way too long. That's all I had to say, really. I said this very badly. I should have, like, gotten notes or something. Or maybe just typed this out. So, pretty, whatever. Hopefully that made a small amount of sense. Hopefully. And, yeah. If that made any sense, probably not. Catch you guys next time. I will be making some more Little Wargame videos. I'm not completely gone, guys. So, I look forward to it. See you later.